Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
All right, guys. Welcome back to Breaking Barriers. I'm really excited today. With us, we have Dr. Scott Lipp. Dr. Scott Lipp, thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thanks for having me, John. It's a pleasure.
We live in a world right now where mental health is such a major topic of conversation, and not just with kids in high school. It's literally everywhere, right? And you know, again, arguably the internet obviously expands things and makes the universe smaller, but I'm sure mental health has always had its challenges. I just feel like right now it's very loud. I myself also, I don't know if you knew this or not, but I myself have dealt with anxiety disorder for a majority of my life. And I'm a very holistic person. So like I wound up, you know, having to figure it out, and I'll get to that later, but this is a cool podcast. I'm excited about it for my own self too. So for people out there who are like, who the heck is Dr. Scott Lipp? Can you give us a quick little summary of just, you know, who you are, your experience, and, you know, what you're doing?
Absolutely. Well, you know, first and foremost, John, you're definitely right. Like it is fortunate. Well, it's an fortunate situation with mental health and the awareness it's finally getting, right?
Right.
So that stigma is definitely being lifted. And I appreciate you opening up and sharing about, you know, your own struggles and how you're overcoming them. So with that, I'm simply, you know, a guy that's trying to help others help themselves. That is what I consider, you know, my primary goal. And so my clinical training, you know, my background is in addictions and substance related disorders.
Right.
I have my training in counseling, and you know, here I am. I basically put up my shingle, started my practice, and just trying to continue to pay it forward.
That's amazing, man. And I appreciate that. And one of the things that, you know, I want to dive into here with you is addiction's a big deal, right? Mental health as a whole is a major, I guess, a topic of conversation. And it's a lot of people struggle with it. And I don't think, you know, back then, and when I say back then, I mean like when I first started identifying, you know, what I was going through, you know, just with anxiety as an example, like, you know, I feel like 15, 20 years ago, when you talk about mental health, like, you know, I feel like you could probably attest to this. People felt like if you were going to see a shrink, you know, you're kook. So it's like, you know, oh, you're going to see, and it wasn't like as welcome and amazing as it is now, open as like, oh yeah, my therapist. Like I'm in so many conversations with friends, clients, and stuff. Like, yeah, my therapist was telling me, and it's like back then it was like you would hide that you went to a therapist. I feel like, and now it's very open and it's very like normal. The normalcy around it's a lot better, which that's a great thing. I'm happy about that. But what advice? And I know this is gonna be a tough one because I know this is what you do for a living, and it takes sessions to unpack things, right? But if somebody were to say, you know, if you were to meet yourself, okay, let's call it 20 years ago, okay, what would you tell yourself that you know now that you wish you knew back then, as it pertains to your field?
One thing.
Only one thing.
That's tough. There's definitely more than one thing that comes to mind, but you know, really, one word: fear less.
Okay. And now let's unpack that.
So, you know, just break the word down, right? Fearless. Fear less in life. Fear less, you know, on a daily basis. You know, anything that you're confronted with, fear less. It's not saying be free of fear. I mean, that, I don't, you know, that's quite lofty, but to fear less, to embrace it, right? To feel it, you know, anxiety, right? That can simply be another word for fear.
Totally.
Depression, You name it, a bunch of mental health related issues stem from fear.
Mm.
And if you could just lessen that, obviously there's, a lot of skills, tools to get there. But if you can grasp that concept,
That's that's really powerful. That's really powerful. And I love that you said fearless, because in my own journey, I never realized that it was fear that was driving the anxiety, right? As an entrepreneur, I joke around and call myself a nut job. Nonetheless, because my mind is always in 10 different thousand places. But what I love about what you're saying, though, is that I never realized I wanted to understand explicitly, what is the biometrics happening? What's going on in me when I feel this anxiety? And the more research I did, the more things I did, the more books I read, whatever, it's like that fear that you have is activating the adrenal glands. And when you have that adrenaline rush through you, right, boom, you're in fight or flight, right? And so for people out there that are listening to this is going to be a good one. Dr. Scott Lipp is going to really change a lot of lives today and do a lot of impact. So I hope everybody engages with him after this. But the thing is, though, is that when I started to realize that, the fear that I had and that was sticking to was opening those adrenal glands and opening up then the fight or flight modes and whatever else. And it's not easy. The guys, it's way easier said than done. Of course, it takes time, takes practice, takes going through it, and seeing somebody amazing like Scott. But I really respect that you said that, because for me, I had to dissect anxiety, and ultimately it is fear, right? Like at the end of the day, it's a fear, right? You're fearing the next panic attack, or you're fearing, going somewhere, whether somebody has a fear of whatever, a specific thing. So thank you for that. I know it was very tough to try to do that, but you did a great job there. I appreciate it. What do you see? And I know so many people here that are watching or that are going to be listening to this know somebody with addiction, whether that's drug and alcohol, it could be sex. You keep seeing all these things out there, that people have sex addictions. So many things out there. What is the best first step that you would say to somebody when it comes to them healing that addiction, in your experience?
Call it out. The first step, it may sound cliche, but it's simply reaching out, admitting there's a problem, and then taking the next step and confronting it.
So I like that. So essentially, so how do you say this? Just, I guess, being radically transparent, not hiding from the truth. And I think that's what they always say is the first step is admitting it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And so calling that out. Got it. In all of your years that you've been practicing and in this field of mental health, what has been a pretty decent sized takeaway from you that when it comes to the way that our brains work, right? Obviously, we're talking about addiction, we're talking about this and that. What have you learned in just studying and working with so many people about how we how we can operate and get out of our own situations? Because obviously it's possible, it's really hard to do it. What have you learned about people?
The human condition it fascinates me. That's why I got into the field, right? What makes people tick? And from your question, what I do find, right? And again, going back to anxiety, humans love a sense of control.
Right.
Right. There's an order to this world, right? This life. If everything lines up, well, then we're okay.
Right.
Rarely is that the case.
Right.
And again, coming to an understanding that control is not always possible, right? And essentially, it's really just an illusion. And the quicker or the better one realizes that, the more they are able to adapt and become flexible in life.
Mm.
A mentor of mine, and when I was training, always told me that optimal human functioning is a matter of adaptability, psychological flexibility.
Mm.
That one stuck with me. You know,
Yeah, I had to write that one down. That's a fire one. I like that one. But and I just want to unpack something real quick. If you guys are listening, when you're listening to that, if you're at the gym or you're on a bus or wherever you are now, if you're at a desk, you're lucky. You should write that part down right there, because what he said, I had to write down myself, which is a controlled environment is essentially, in better words, fake, right? It's an illusion, right? It's almost like when you watch those shows where somebody's walking through a desert for days and they see a mirage, they see like a spa, and it's like, it's this false sense of true security. When, to your point, right, like there's not, in most cases, there's not. Like I've had times, and I'm an open book about my anxiety. So like for me, a lot of mine always stemmed from like fearing being out and having an anxiety attack again, right? So like I'd be like, okay, I'm on my way up to New York City from Jersey, right, from my Jersey office to my New York office, and there have been true life times where I've been at the Holland Tunnel, turned around because I'm like, I'm gonna have a panic attack and I'll be stuck in traffic, and then it's the world's gonna end, right? And my safe space was going back home. So I'd be like, okay, boom, I'm going back home, and I'm driving home, adrenaline up, panicked up, and all this other stuff. And what I was looking for, right, in my mind, which you just said, is that the controlled environment of my house. Okay, boom, I'm gonna go back to my house and be my controlled environment. I'll be totally okay there. But it's that mirage in the desert, right? So I love that you said that, and I'm sure people who are listening to it can relate to that.
Yeah. Can I ask you something, John?
Yeah, of course.
What do you do in that situation now?
So it's been a journey for me, man. I'll be honest. Like for me, I actually got. It took me about. I had my worst, I'll call, anxiety attack that to date when I was just engaged to my wife. We were at her father's birthday. This is like, I want to say 2015, right? And I had a long day at work, and I just wanted to go home, but we had to go out for her, father's birthday, so I got there. And I'm normally, as you can probably tell, I'm a very social person. I typically don't shut up, I ramble. And everybody at the restaurant, that was her family, was like, hey, why are you being so quiet? You're not really eating. They were like calling it out, but like, because I was acting, unconventionally, like I wasn't being myself. And so it just kind of like heightened it. I was like, damn, everyone can realize that, I'm going through some shit right now. And fast forward, we wound up going back to her dad's house for cake, and I just wanted to go home to my safe space. And I pushed myself to go out, and then it just had like a really bad anxiety attack, and wound up leaving early. And that was the first time I explained to my wife that like I had it. I was like, hey, here's the deal. And she's like, what? Like, I didn't realize you had this stuff, because I'd always like, keep it in. So fast forward to give you kind of like the quick journey, that day after that, I was like seeking holistic counselors so that they could help me. And I frameworked it as like my anxiety coach. Like, I'm going to find my anxiety coach, right?
Okay.
So found somebody, long story short, help me, right? And it helped me understand, like, John, you're not crazy. You got to kind of like balance yourself, ground yourself. So anyway, to answer your question, what I do differently now is, before I would be in a position where I was fearing I had to get home wherever the hell I was. It doesn't matter where I was, I had to get home. And the whole time that I was driving home, I'd be panicked, right? I'm going to pass out, or I'm going to this or that, or I'm going to stop breathing. All these different thoughts that rush through my head. The fear, right? The fear would be like, boom, just going through me. Now the difference is I'm a really big meditator, which has helped me channel thoughts and focus on the distracting thoughts. So meditation. And then, my anxiety coach got me a book, or told me about a book from, you ever hear of Claire Weeks?
Sure.
Yeah. So Dr. Claire, and so what I essentially do now is I float on past right? So like if I'm feeling it, I'm like, all right, here's the circumstance. We'll breathe through it. Like, because what heightens mine is the fearful thoughts that I have. And so it's like, oh, you're going to pass out or something's going to happen because you're anxious and you're so panicked. And there's all these unrealistic thoughts. So now I just kind of like, I float on past it. And I just really push through.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's how you've learned to cope with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it takes. Everyone's different in what mechanism they use, what works for them.
Right.
But finding it, that's the key.
Oh my goodness, man. And it's taken me so long to find it. And the one thing I want to encourage anybody who's listening to this is it took me I wish I went out and found a therapist a long time ago to help me, right? But I was always under the cliche belief of like, okay, if I go to see, I was also terrified. I was like, if I go to see somebody and they tell me, you're gonna need medication or you're gonna need this, you need that, like, to me, I was so worried that's like I was gonna hear, John, there's something wrong with you. And I was so terrified with it that I was never open to even going to see somebody. I was like, I'm just gonna keep like going through this, and I was in a cage, man, of my own thoughts, and it was horrible. Yeah. But anybody listening to this, I encourage you again, like people like Dr. Scott, like you're out there on the forefront, because one of the biggest challenges we have right now in this country, right? I'm not gonna go outside the country, but in this country is mental health, and it's people not being able to find that coping mechanism. And what's cool is that people like you free people, man. That's why I have so much respect for you and for what you do, because people, man, when I think about my anxiety at its worst, right? It's like, it's really, really it's day-to-day things are such a struggle. And people don't understand it. Like going to the grocery store and feeling like you're not going to be able to like make it and come back in time. Like it's like, or like, you'll go crazy while you're there or something. And it's like, people like you are helping people be freed. Right. And like for me, like it's such an honor to be able to not only work with somebody like yourself, but also be able to have you on this podcast to speak to it, because people need this, right? And not everybody has the fortitude to say, I'm going to go talk to somebody or I'm going to go see somebody. So I want to encourage everybody that's listening to this, if you're in the Jersey and Florida area, because you're licensed in both those places.
Correct. Thank you. Yes.
Yep. If you're in those two areas, you got to talk to Dr. Scott. Again, experience. The first step, besides calling it out, I think for me, in my also like if somebody were to ask me that question, like, John, in your own journey, because I'm still going through it. I think mine is an endless mountaintop, and every day is going to be a new day, right? Just like, I guess, like an addiction kind of. But the thing is, for me, is like, it's, yes, calling it out and knowing that that's a real issue. But secondly, it's being okay with going to get help. And I think that's the thing I never realized. I called it out. I knew it, but I didn't friggin' go get help. And I wish I did, because I think I'd be at a different part of my journey now if I did earlier, right? Yeah. But yeah, I'm really grateful for that. Now, for the people that are on let's just say they're going to school right now, right? That are listening in and they want to be a therapist. What advice would you give somebody who is just like in college, they're getting their degree, and they're like, wow, I'm about to get out there in the big world out there and start my own practice or go work at a practice. What advice would you give somebody who's just starting?
Wow. So putting myself in those shoes, which wasn't that long ago, right? Really to lean in to the discomfort, right? Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This field, it will challenge you. And I'm sure, like any good entrepreneur has experience, right? With challenges come great opportunities.
Yep.
And I can definitely speak to that in this field. Every time, I have the honor of walking with a client, and observing, their progress, right? The story that you just shared, John, that's what makes the work worth it.
Yeah. Well, listen, to somebody like me who has like, and on my entire podcast, anytime I've been at places, I always mention it, because I think mental health used to be very like stuffed in the corner. And it's something that like a lot of people are going through, but you guys are on the front line, man. And the one thing is like, when you think about like, you hear about like the crazy stuff in the news right now with like UFOs and they're confirmed aliens and whatever. Right. And it's like, when you think about it in a crazy life situation of like a world war, right. Or like a war of the planets. I don't know. Like if that was ever a thing, it's like, who would be the men and women protecting us out there, right? Like, and like those people would be saving the planet, and like, and it would make me think about like, and I think everybody would be thinking about like, wow, is what I do truly impacting the world? And what you do, the answer is yes all day, because like what you're doing is you're putting people in a place to succeed, to be a better mother, to be a better father, to be a better leader, to be a better person, to, you come in this world alone, you leave this world, with family and everything else like that. Not everybody gets that blessing, but, for the most part, you die alone too. Even if people are around you, when you're gone, right? Wherever else you go. So, but being able to sit with yourself and have peace, is a invaluable and oh my goodness, like, it's priceless. And the fact that you're able to do that, right, like, is, oh my goodness, like I have the chills right now, because like that's the real work, right? And so, I remember when I was starting Adapting Social, and I was out there in the world and getting denied, and still had that anxiety at that time when I was a 17-year-old young kid. One of the things that I learned through my own, like, personal development, like reading Tony Robbins books or reading this or doing that, was I just always saw, and I got this like feeling that like our life happens between our two ears, and we're in a looking glass observing, right? And so the things happening outside of us, we're observing, and here we're thinking about, we have perceptions, we have this and that fears, excitements, but it all happens up here. And that mental health and what I call the brain gains, right? Instead of the muscle gains, the brain gains. It's like people don't focus on the brain gains. They don't focus there. And a lot of times they're depressed, or they're suicidal, or they're anxious, or they're addicted to things. But they know what they have to do for the external world, right? How to look, and how I'm going to feel. And I don't want to be embarrassed, or I don't want this, I don't want that. Like, what's my public perception? But they don't focus enough time in here. And I feel like that's what meditation has done for me, at least, is help me channel that inner, hey, I'm here inside here, right? Like I'm talking to you today, we're looking at laptops, and we have physical bodies, but everything happens from up here, right? It's all directed. So you in your work, it's really cool that you get to say that, like, you're impacting, one of the most important things on this planet, and that's our mental health. So yeah, I'm grateful for you for that.
I'm grateful for you, John. I mean, that was quite profound what you just shared. So you taught me something.
Yeah, thank you, man. Brain gains. So we're getting close to the end here, and I wanted to ask you: is there any? So if you were to say, when it comes to mental health, is there a book out there that you're like, if you're going through mental health, and maybe, I don't know if there's different categories with anxiety, depression, or addiction, but is there a mental health book out there that you didn't even say, for me, because I think anxiety is a big thing right now, that you've read and you're like, this is a good read that people should pick up?
Oh, wow. I mean, there's a bunch, but actually, I'm actually teaching a course right now, and one of the reads, it's mental health related, but it's really, just a philosophy of life, and that is the Four Agreements. Right back there.
I have that.
That's a good one.
That is a good book. I do have that too. I'm gonna write that down too. Four Agreements, guys. And what would be? See, I normally ask this question. I'm gonna ask it, and if you don't give this answer, I'll say it, because I saw it on your website. But over the years, when it comes to your own life, right? Going to college, building your own practice, going out there in the world, moving from Jersey to Florida, when you think about a quote or an adage that reminds you of resilience and keep going, for you, have you had something like that stuck out to you?
Yeah. So what got me through my PhD, and I think you can relate to something like this, right? I'm big on affirmations,
Yeah.
right? And there's plenty of them out there, but something that is still on my wall to this day, it's pretty simple. The old Nike slogan, just do it.
Get out there.
Just do it. Yeah, that got me through a lot of things.
You know what? There was this guy. Hold on. I need to find it. Where's this guy? Oh, Art Williams. There he goes. Have you ever saw that speech by Art Williams?
No.
All right, I'm about to change your freaking day. Okay.
Get on.
I'm gonna send this to you. So this guy, Art Williams, was somebody. I'm gonna pop it in the chat too, just so you can grab it after we pop off. But this guy, Art Williams, I saw this forever ago, man. I saw this when I was early phase starting my business. And dude, literally what you said got you through college, his speech, it's about just do it, right? But dude, this guy, the way he expressed it and the way he angled everything, the way he did it, like he was this football coach that was like, you know, somewhere in like the deep South, right? No education, this, that, whatever. And built one of the biggest insurance companies. I'm pretty sure it's AIG or something. I don't know. But at the time, but he was like, and he became this multi super successful guy, right? But he's like, everyone's always asking me, like, why, how did you do this? How did you do this? Well, I just did it. How did you do this? How can I do this? Just do it. And it's just like, I love that you said that. I hope you watch that and it inspires you the way it's inspired me, especially since you've had that, in your college. But I really do like that. The just do it. So yeah, watch that after. If you haven't, guys, YouTube Art Williams just do it speech. You will be electrified. I start my mornings off sometimes with that one. Where can people find you? Let's plug yourself now. So like if somebody's like, damn, I need to talk to Dr. Scott, talk website, social, where can they find you?
Yeah. Atlantic Counseling for Empowerment.com. That is my practice. I know it's a mouthful, or just simply ACE, right? So they can go on my website. You can also feel free to reach out to me directly. I don't know. Should I throw that out there, John?
Yeah, throw it out.
561-421-3048. It's my practice, so I'm definitely readily available.
Love it. Listen, I am so grateful for your time. I think time is the one asset, that we do not get back in this world. So you spending it here with us today and our audience listening in and just dropping some wisdom on mental health, I'm forever grateful. So thank you. And I want to end, you didn't say it, but I'm going to end with a quote on your site that I loved based on what you told me in the beginning. The advice you'd give one piece of advice. And you say, fearless in the journey of life by daring to live fearlessly. And that is absolute fire. I love that. We're gonna give some high fives for that one right there. So Dr. Scott, thank you so much, guys. Go engage with him. He gave you his website. We'll post it up here too. But everybody that's listening in, again, your life is what you create. That's why I always say create a great day, because it's up to you. Of course, circumstances are going to happen that we can't control. It's a part of life, right? But how you act and what you do is what makes you successful in your day and in creating a great day, right? Because again, we can't control everything, right? But we can control how we react and we control what we do next. So everybody, I hope you create a fantastic rest of your day and go give Dr. Scott some love. And again, if you need some support, this is the guy to go see. So thank you.
Thank you.